2, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. Does he agree with all of the comments of his Minister of Labour regarding minimum wage rates for young people?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as far as I'm aware of them, yes.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, which view best represents the position of this national government? Kate Wilkinson's suggestion that a return to youth rates might be a good idea, or Paula Bennett's contradictory view that this wouldn't reduce youth unemployment?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I haven't seen the context of the statements, and even the member himself says they're suggestions. So I'd be better to frame it this way and say the view of the government is we're concerned about high levels of youth employment, and we will be announcing policies that will address that.
The Honourable
Mr.
Leader of the Opposition.
Why doesn't the national government, in order to reduce youth unemployment, focus on upskilling young New Zealanders to meet the critical shortage of skills in this country, rather than wasting time talking about cutting the wages of young people?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, because we're doing exactly that. That's why we've announced 7,500 youth places. That's why we've looked at implementing and rolling out 8 trade academies in New Zealand schools this year. That's why we have a record number of young New Zealanders going to universities, polytechs and wānangas. That's why we're working very aggressively through the budget to allocate $42 million to additional training places.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Supplementary question. If the Prime Minister claims that he's doing exactly that, to use his words, how does he explain the $90 million cut in this year's budget to youth training, on top of the $55 million cut in supplementary estimates last year, cutting skilled training so that there are fewer people going into skilled training now than there were at any time over the last 5 years?
The Right Honourable
Mr. Speaker, all I can say to the Leader of the Opposition, he's wrong in his facts, but one of the things that's worth looking at is one looks at in some areas where there was a reduction of training. That was simply because the completion rates in those courses were so abysmal that actually there was no training actually taking place.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, if the Prime Minister claims I'm wrong in my facts, does he deny that $57.7 million has been cut from industry training on the basis that demand for trainees had reduced? $32.9 million has been cut from industry training, from ITOs dealing with health and safety courses, and that Mr Joyce took $55 million out of skilled training last year through the supplementary estimates.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, no, I can't confirm those facts. What I can confirm is the government's very focused on good outcomes. That is a big difference between this government and the previous Labor government. There's simply through money, well, look, I tell you what is happening is obviously the Labor Party's training people in Te Tau Tokerau because none of them are here today.
Order the...
point of...
Order. The Honourable Trevor Mallard, point of order.
Mr Speaker, I think you are aware that there's a cross-party agreement with regard to those people who are concerned about Christchurch being there. Mr Speaker, we happen to win seats there,
order.
And our members,
order.
And our members
order.
can't stay
order.
there.
Order. That's enough of that sort of thing. Now, the Prime Minister erred on 2 counts. One is there is a cross-party agreement that Canterbury members can be looking after the needs of their constituents and treated as present, and he also knows it's not in order to refer to anyone's absence from the House. And the Honourable Trevor Mallard erred in his point of order because he put a political statement in his point of order that was totally unnecessary. So I guess that's one all, but let's not have the score go any higher today. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. If the Prime Minister is worried about youth unemployment, why has he allowed a consistent decline in intakes into apprenticeships since he became Prime Minister? And why doesn't he do something about that instead of looking at cutting the wages paid to young people?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I think the Leader of the Opposition is confused in his facts and incorrect.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Point of order. Mr Speaker, I could ask the permission of the House to table a series of documents from the news media widely reporting the facts that I've just mentioned, You would not normally allow that, but I ask you to consider allowing it on this occasion, since the Prime Minister's standard answer is to reject the facts that he claims are wrong in what I've been saying to him.
Well, Order. One of the reasons why we don't do that is the information is readily available to all the House, and what's more, what's printed in the media may be no more fact than anything else. In all my 27 years' experience in this place, it's extremely unlikely to be fact if it's been printed in the media, and that is one reason why we don't actually table recent newspaper clippings. And I realise the member can be frustrated by that kind of answer, but a minister is entitled to dispute information provided in a supplementary question, but they should be careful in doing so, and I'm sure the Prime Minister will have been careful in doing so. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Is it in order for the Prime Minister to dispute facts that are available to every member in this House to avoid answering a question?
Well, if to address the member's point of order, if that was established to be correct, that would be a very serious issue, because what the member is suggesting there is that a minister not only gave the House incorrect information, but did so to avoid or to impede the business of the House. Now, that is very serious, and that's why ministers should need to be serious, if they need to be careful if they do refute information contained in members' questions. But we do also acknowledge that information in supplementary questions hasn't been validated, and so as Speaker I can't act as a referee on any of that, but certainly refuting the information as a valid answer, were it to be done simply to avoid answering a question, that would be a very serious issue.
Further point of order, Mr.
The Honourable
Speaker. And it goes, I think, to your original response, and you, I think, were somewhat critical of news media reports and the quality thereof, sir, but in the earlier set of supplementaries, the Leader of the Opposition asked the Leader of the National Party using budget figures that have been tabled in this House, and he disputed those and used that to avoid the question.
Well, Order. The member's now getting into debate on the issue, and I don't want to prolong that. But ministers, if they refute information contained in questions, they do need to be careful about doing that. And I've made it very clear that were it to be established, it was done to avoid answering a question. That is to actually, if it was not correct, to give incorrect information that impeded the business of the House, and that would be a serious issue. And that's why, if ministers are going to refute, members have to be careful making claims in their supplementary questions. I hear all sorts of claims made that even I know may not actually be factual, but I still accept the point that it may be perfectly factual information. If it's refuted, ministers need to be careful about that. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, supplementary question to the Prime Minister. Does he believe that a young person doing the same job with the same skills should be paid less than an older person simply because of the younger person's age?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I do, in so much that was why no doubt we thought it was reasonably sensible and Labor brought in the training allowance for a younger person.
Question number 3, Dr.